Dylan, the Stanley Cup playoffs are here. It's that time of year, and Dylan, you know me, I'm an off-season guy. I love the trades, I love the free agency stuff, but this is the best time of the hockey season. And personally, I like the first round, maybe as much as even the Stanley Cup final, just because there's so many series going on. You get more of the upsets. It's just there's no better time in the hockey calendar than the playoffs. So it all kicks off today. We're getting this episode timed out pretty perfectly. Should drop for everyone right before that first game starts at noon. I can't wait.
Yeah, it's awesome. I mean, you're talking about games basically every day, and they're meaningful, right? Like towards the end of the regular season, particularly that last week or so, where all the playoff teams are decided, and for the most part, the standings were decided as far as what the seeding was going to be and everything. It's nice to know that you're going to be watching the most meaningful hockey possible, right? After that, and it's the best because the hockey changes too. Hockey gets better. I mean, everything about it is just awesome.
Yeah, no, it is great. I love this time of year. And you know what? We're gonna go through every single series. We're gonna preview them. We're gonna make our picks. So we'll be out there. We'll have to put our foot down, not just who wins it, but how many games and all of that. So you can blast us if we're wrong in a couple weeks once these series are decided. But before we get into the individual series, I wanted to ask you, Dylan, which series excites you the most? Which one excites you the least? Which one are you not going to tune into? I feel like there's always one every year. And then which one might be sneaky good that maybe won't be one of the like marquee series everyone's going to look at, but could be really entertaining.
All right. Well, the series that excites me the most, I mean, on paper, it should be Dallas, Minnesota, just because, uh, I mean, it should be the best series of round one in theory, right? Just two great teams match up well against each other. That one should just be the most entertaining. But I'm sorry, I can't help it. We're getting the Battle of Pennsylvania again, right? Like Flyers, Penguins, neither team's all that good right now. I don't think any of them are getting past the second round. But whenever those two teams face off against each other, it's always entertaining. And yes, it's not necessarily the days of like Danny Briere going, breakaway goal against Marc-Andre Fleury and all of that kind of stuff. But you still got Sidney Crosby and Evgeny Malkin on one side, get Rick Tocchet coaching against them on the other side. I'm sorry, I can't help it. Penguins, Flyers, that's just always a good time.
You know, that is such a you pick. I know you've grown up watching the Penguins. And you know, if Sidney Crosby is involved, like we didn't think we'd ever get to see that again. I
Mhm.
certainly didn't. I thought that was it for Sidney Crosby in the playoffs. So that is going to be fun. That's going to be exciting. And yeah, I don't know how far either of those teams get. Although in that bracket they could actually get surprisingly far. You never
Yeah.
know. But yeah, no, I think that's going to be a good one. I mean, I would go with Dallas, Minnesota. You mentioned them. That probably would be my normal pick. And I think the upside, I guess, with this playoff format, which I very much do not like, is you have these series every year where you have usually two of the top five teams in the NHL have to face each other in the first round, and it makes for a heck of a series. We're going to see that in Dallas, Minnesota. If not that one, though, there is another series just like that in the East, Tampa, Montreal. And I think that one might be my pick actually for the one I'm most looking forward to. Montreal has been red hot since the Olympic break. Tampa's kind of cooled down a little bit. They're two really good teams. I could see either of them going all the way to the cup final, but that's kind of the mirror one on the East that I'm going to look forward to.
Yeah, that one should be a fantastic series as well. Very, very excited to see how Montreal does. Big fan of a lot of the players on that team. I know you are as well. It'll be really interesting to see how they match up against Tampa there. Least excited series, RJ. I mean, there's definitely some good picks out there for this one. I mean, for me, it's a toss up between Colorado, LA, and Carolina, Ottawa. I know that second one's maybe a little more controversial. I mean, look, Colorado, LA should be the worst series in the sense that Colorado should just kind of curb stomp LA and move on. And also, the Kings play unbelievably boring hockey, so it's not even going to be like an enjoyable watch on the way to a potential sweep for Colorado there. So I guess I'll explain myself on the other side with the Carolina Ottawa. I just don't think Ottawa is very good, and I don't think that they're going to show up well against Carolina. I think Carolina gets business done in the first round. I know you very much disagree with me on this, so I'll let you say your part. But or I guess we'll get to it later, but yeah, there's also just not like a ton of players and stuff that I care about in that series either. So it's just one of those, if I ever have a choice between series, that one I'll probably be watching whatever other game is on.
Okay, well, I'm going to push back here because that was actually my pick for the sneaky good series, and you have it as the least interesting. And it's because I think we really could see an upset here. I disagree with you. We'll get into it when we're picking that specific series and everything. But I think Ottawa's got real upset potential. I do not believe in the Canes. I don't believe in them any year. And I know usually they get past the first round, but I could see an upset here. And the thing is also that makes it interesting is just in this part of the bracket, because you've got the winner of this series going to face the winner of Pittsburgh Philly. Like whichever team wins this series probably has very good chance of going to the Eastern Conference Final and potentially beyond. So the stakes are really high there as well. And I just think Ottawa's going to give Carolina much more of a run for their money than I guess you do. So that was going to be my sneaky interesting pick. As for least interesting, it's got to be Colorado LA. I wanted to pick a different series, but that has to be it.
It has to be it.
It's just, it's basically a bye week for Colorado.
Yeah. And then sneaky interesting series. We have your answer in Carolina, Ottawa. Mine is actually Buffalo, Boston. So it's another one in the Eastern Conference there. I just think the, Boston Bruins, not too much exciting on that team beyond David Pastrnak and stuff. But if Jeremy Swayman's able to get a little hot and play well, I think the playoff untested Buffalo Sabres, whenever teams like that make the playoffs, there's usually some ups and downs and things could happen there. I think that one could end up going a little bit further than most people think it could, just because Buffalo on paper should just kind of take care of business there. I actually think that one's going to kind of turn into a little bit of a grinder and probably go a little bit further than most people think it should.
Interesting. No, I like that pick. And also just, you got to watch game one in Buffalo. You have to, just to see how those fans are going to react, like after they've been out of the playoffs so long. And it just creates unpredictability and chaos on the ice because the energy in that building is going to be nuts. So I'm definitely going to be tuned in for game one.
Yeah. And I mean, if I had to pick a second, Vegas, Utah should be a lot of fun. I think that will be entertaining, and we'll get to why I think that in just a little bit. But let's go ahead and dive into the bracket here, RJ, and we'll start breaking down these matchups if you're ready.
Oh yeah, let's go. So we're going to start out west, as we tend to do. And we're going to just start in the order. If you're looking at the bracket challenge, the NHL bracket challenge, by the way, if you want to do your picks as well along with us, we have our Emerald City Hockey bracket challenge. The league name is just Emerald City Hockey. So I think they have a function where you can just search league names and stuff. Yeah. But definitely join us on that. And so you can pick alongside us. We have both submitted our brackets. And we'll start just in the order for that bracket challenge. How many people? We got 80 people in there already. So get your picks in today. I think brackets lock on the 20th. You can actually pick after the first couple games. I don't want to change mine. I don't want to overreact to the first games, but you're welcome to do that if you want. So let's start with Colorado, LA in the top left here. And as we kind of alluded to already, I don't think this one is going to be much of a competition with a lot of series. Sometimes with the one versus the wild card team, you ask, well, could that team pull an upset? Could the underdog win? I think the only relevant question here is just, can the Kings even win a game?
That is the big question. And I don't think that they can. I just don't. I think that they're against any other team in the Western Conference. I think the Kings could find a way to win a single game, right? But I just think Colorado is so good that I just don't see the Kings being able to do it. I don't think the Kings have the offensive firepower to be able to score 3 to 4 goals, which they're probably going to need to do in order to be able to take a game. And I think Colorado has so much firepower that the Kings, despite the fact that they do have a lot of players that are good defensively and they have been getting good goaltending this year, I just don't think they're going to be able to keep, Colorado to say 2 or less goals every game. And I feel like if those two things can't happen, then there's no way LA wins a game.
No, and Colorado's got a ton of speed. The Kings are not equipped to deal with that speed at all. And look, I do want to say, because we have seen the Kings fairly recently, they came to Seattle. We watched that game, and I will say they looked better than what I remembered. I think DJ Smith finally has them playing a level better than what Jim Hiller did. It just takes a little time, I think, for a new coach to come in and change things a little bit. So I don't think it's as ugly as it might have been 2 to 3 weeks ago when the Kings were just playing terrible hockey. Like they have sorted some things out. Their top line actually looks okay, but with this matchup, it's over. Abs in 3 is what I've been saying to everybody. The Kings don't stand a chance.
Well, and that was, I believe, how the season series went, as they
It
were
is.
3-0 against LA, Colorado, with a 13 goals for, 5 goals for the Kings through those 3 games. So, yeah, doesn't sound like a great time
Maybe
for
the
them.
more interesting question is just how many goals do the Kings score in the entire
Can they
series?
get to double digits through 4 games? I don't know that they do.
I don't know that they can either.
I
This
mean, the
this one's
big
going to be
thing,
super lopsided.
yeah, the big thing, the big difference for me between the Jim Hiller Kings and the DJ Smith Kings is the Kings went from a boring team to a patient team, where the Kings now really look like a team where they understand that their best avenue for taking advantage of things is to pounce on mistakes that the other team makes, and then make you pay for any mistakes that you have. Colorado, though, just doesn't really make a lot of mistakes, right? Like they have good defensemen that can move the puck and get back if there is an issue. They have the forwards with the speed to get back if there's an issue, and or just pressure you so much that you're going to end up making mistake before they do. There's just no way that this Kings team can get it done.
Yeah, and I've talked to some Kings fans that I know from growing up too, and some of them were maybe even a little not happy necessarily to see this matchup, but just happy it wasn't the Oilers. And I understand that, given you still want to lose the Oilers again, and that was kind of the other option. But I think by the end of this, they'll know the meaning of that phrase. You know, better the devil you know than the devil you don't, because it could always be worse.
Yep, definitely. All
Let's
right.
not waste any more breath on this series and move on to what should actually be a fantastic series in Dallas and Minnesota. Feels like we've been waiting for this one for months. Like we've known this was going to happen since Thanksgiving, that this series was lined up basically. Thank you, NHL playoff format, but we have it now. You think it's going to live up to the hype? I guess you probably do, since you mentioned it earlier. Who takes this one? This is such a hard series to pick.
This is a really hard series to pick, and I have like a gut feel that Minnesota's gonna find a way to do it in like 7, but I did for my bracket choose Dallas. I just think there's just so many good players on Dallas, and I think the depth on Dallas, particularly up front with the forward group, is just better than Minnesota's. And I think that assuming Dallas is healthy, and I know that that's a big if, like sounds like Rupe Hintz is going to miss probably games 1 and 2, if not more. Miro Haskinen's kind of questionable for game 1 going in. I don't know if there's more of an update today on him, but I just think Dallas has a little bit more depth than what Minnesota is going to be able to come out there with. But I think that this series is going to be close. I think it's going to live up to the hype. It should just be the best round 1 series.
Yeah, absolutely. And I had a similar feeling to you, but I'm going to go with my gut feeling. In my bracket, I went Wild in 7. I think this is go. It's not even a bold pick to say I think this is going 7 games. These teams are just so closely matched. And actually, depth is where I'm going to give the Wild a bit of an edge. I like their additions, especially down the forward group, to add some size, add some nastiness. And you look at the bottom 6 for them. You know, I like the way that Danila Yurov's been playing. Yakov Trennin's he's gonna hit everything. The Foligno brothers are gonna hit everything. You've got, you know, Michael McCarron, big 6'6" body down the middle. Like they really added some things, knowing that they were gonna be trying to make a deep playoff run. And I like how they've kind of configured everything there. It's just a matter of, can their top guys, I think, match the stars. And I trust Kirill Kaprizov, and especially I trust Matt Boldy to be able to do that in the big moments. And then, you know, again, on the blue line, you've got Quinn Hughes now. You've got Brock Faber. That is huge. And especially in the playoffs, like even in the regular season, Quinn Hughes is playing 30 minutes, half the game every night. In the playoffs, I'm really interested to see just where his minute totals can go. And that's even just in regulation. The overtime games, it's going to be absolutely nuts. But, you know, do they play him 35 minutes in a game? They played him 30, 31 already. Can they do that? That's going to be a big advantage for them. And then like Brodin and Spurgeon down the lineup. Like I believe in that blue line more than I believe in the Stars blue line, especially Yeah. So the Stars blue line's always their issue. I look at the lineups and I don't know. I like Minnesota.
I get that. My concern, the depth on the blue line definitely favors Minnesota, and it's not even close. My concern is, and you mentioned it, with all those guys depth forward wise for Minnesota, well, they all hit people, and yes, they're going to be able to play a grinded out style of hockey, but how many goals are they going to contribute? Right? Where on the Dallas side of things, yeah, maybe they're not quite as physical, but they have guys that know how to score. I mean, Maverick Bork had a hat trick like a couple games ago, right? Like they have guys down their lineup that are going to be able to contribute goals wise. And in a series where I feel like every game is going to come down to who can just kind of, get the puck to find the back of the net that last time. I feel like that kind of maybe favors Dallas a little bit, their ability to do that. The other thing that I'm kind of giving Dallas a slight edge towards is goaltending, because Philip Gustafson has been very up and down this year, kind of ends the season a little down. And Wallstead also has been very up and down. And I think that that could create an issue for Minnesota, because I assume Gustafson will be their starter. But if he struggles at some point, it's going to be interesting to see kind of how they handle that. Casey DeSmith has definitely struggled for Dallas as of late, and so Ottinger seems like the day one starter for sure. But Ottinger's been heating up, and I just kind of trust that goalie tandem for Dallas a little bit more than I trust the Minnesota one. And I think Minnesota could find themselves kind of chasing a hot streak with their two goalies in a way Dallas might be able just to push through with Otter.
Yeah, for me, it's still a wash. I don't fully believe in Jake Ottinger. He's had a bit of a down year. He's looked a little better recently, but I, I'm still not fully convinced. I mean, Casey DeSmith has certainly been the better of the two goalies for Dallas on the season overall,
Mhm.
and I think they might be tempted, just given the strong season DeSmith had, to maybe go there if things start to struggle in the series. But I mean, at the end of the day, like I think this is probably going 7, and we're going to have 6 games of figuring out which goalie is playing better and which goalie isn't. And if either team, I guess, can't figure out the goalie situation, if both goalies look bad and they don't have an answer there, then they're probably done in the series anyway, because that's just how playoff hockey works. But to me, it's pretty close to a wash. It's so hard to predict. That's the one part of the series I'm not going to even venture to predict.
Yeah, no, and that's fair. That's fair. And certainly the
But
series,
it might decide it. So
yeah, I do think it is. And there is a part of me that thinks that if it goes 7, Minnesota wins, in part just because Pete DeBoer is not there with Dallas anymore, and they won so many game sevens with him that they're just due to lose one. And so I could see it being Minnesota in 7 or Dallas if it's any shorter, like the series, right? I think that that could very much be something that happens. Season series definitely indicates, though, that we're looking for a good time, though. Dallas ended up winning the season series 2-1-1. So, like, if you're going based on standings points, Dallas, the very slight edge over Minnesota
it's
there.
2 wins and 2 losses.
I know, but it technically for points percent, wise, they technically came out on top. But in those 4 games, each team had 13 goals. So unbelievably evenly matched. This is why this series, again, like I said at the very beginning, on paper, this is the best series in round one.
Yeah, we'll see if it lives up to the hype. I think it will. I can't imagine it doesn't. So that's going to be a really good one. Next, we got Vegas, Utah. So the Utah Mammoth, first time in the Stanley Cup playoffs. I'm looking forward to seeing how they do in the playoffs. That building's going to be rocking. The fans are excited. Quick shout out to all the fans in Arizona. I feel bad for them. They really should get to witness this there. So much of this Utah team, again, not that Utah shouldn't, like, happy for the fans there, but so much of this Utah team was built through a lot of the pain that the Arizona Coyotes experience and their fans experienced in trying to build it up. This is ultimately what the end goal was. Glad they're getting there. Happy for the fans in Utah, but just shout out to the fans in Arizona. Against Vegas. Now, the Golden Knights, we talked about them plenty over the last couple weeks, firing Bruce Cassidy, bringing in John Tortorella. We both thought that it could give them that new coach bump. It certainly did,
Mhm.
going on a big run, winning the division to end the regular season. And the reward is facing the Utah Mammoth, potentially a tougher matchup than had they not won the division. So I think we talked about it when Vegas was playing Seattle with the chance to wrap up the division on our live game commentary. We're like, should Vegas even want to win this game given the matchup they're going to get? What are you thinking for this series? Because I could see a lot of goals. That's the first thing. It's just this could be a really high scoring series.
I think it should be a very high scoring series. And this is also my thing with the series. I, I think this is the overtime series, right? Like every year there's a series that has a bunch of games go to overtime. This one feels like the series where everything should end up in overtime. I ended up picking Vegas in 6 because I just think they're way more playoff tested. And I feel like their style of game translates to the playoffs a lot more. And so I know that this regular season series heavily favored Utah. But I think that what's ultimately going to happen in this one is a lot of these games are going to be very close. A lot of them are going to go to overtime, and then the veteran experience on the Vegas side of things will ultimately be able to, pull ahead there. But I picked Vegas in 6, and in my mind, at least 3 of those games are going to OT.
Okay. I don't know about the overtime side of it, but I hate agreeing with you, but I also in my bracket had Vegas in 6. And I think it's largely just down to a team that's been there before versus a team that hasn't. And that's something that I've criticized Utah on a lot during the season. You look at just the basic standings and they have a fantastic goal differential. All the underlying stuff looks good. But what I've been saying all year is they don't know how to capitalize in the key moments, whether it's holding a lead late or, I mean, they've got the offensive firepower to like come back and to pounce in those things. But I think there's just a lot that this team still has to learn about playing the way that you're going to need to play in the playoffs. And this is where they're going to learn those lessons. And Vegas is a very good team to teach you those lessons. You're going to learn real quick. But I think this is the series that, is just kind of the learning experience for them. And at the end of the day, yeah, Vegas's veteran experience is going to come in handy in those spots. I think also this Vegas team is different than the team that had a lot of the season series against Utah. Vegas looks a lot better. They've cleaned a lot of things up. I guess they found their spirit under John Tortorella, as he said, even though he hasn't changed a whole lot of things. But I think they probably have the edge here. That's it. I could see a path to Utah winning, largely based on goaltending, because that's been the issue with Vegas all season. Seems like Carter Hart is going to be their guy in net. He's won his last, 8 games that he's played in? Last 7 starts, at least for him. He's been on a bit of a run. It seems like that's their guy, but I still don't trust him in net. Don't trust any goaltender that Vegas has. That could be their undoing if it is something.
Yeah, he has not looked good in those 7 games, right? Like he's getting the win, but he hasn't looked good. He's certainly not confidence inspiring. If I was a Vegas fan or a Vegas player, like I haven't seen enough to be like, yeah, in a playoff series, especially against a team that is as front loaded and offensively minded as Utah, the series could get ugly. I think a lot of it is also going to come down to power plays. And we'll see how refs kind of call things this postseason. But traditionally, penalties are a little bit harder to come by as things get more physical. And I think that that's going to favor Vegas being able to grind things out at even strength. Utah, if they're able to get a lot of power play opportunities, things could get pretty ugly for Vegas. But I just don't think you can ever count on that in the postseason.
Yeah. And now one key player I have for this series is Mitch Marner. And I'm really interested to see, there's the spotlight on him in Toronto when he was there. Is that, can he show up? Can he perform in the playoffs? And I think it's going to be really pivotal in this series because the Golden Knights have been playing him as kind of their shutdown 2C. He's been playing center and getting a lot of tough defensive matchups. I know he's gotten some Selke talk around that. And I think he's got his work cut out for him here against a very offensively proficient Utah team. And I don't think success is even going to be necessarily measured by how much he scores and how he does on the score sheet. I think it's going to be on his shutdown ability, at least in this series. You got to expect him to score at some point, particularly on the power play. You want him contributing there. But that's where my eyes are going to be is can Mitch Marner kind of be that shutdown 2C that Vegas is going to need against Utah? And it'll be interesting to see, can he step up in the playoffs outside of Toronto? It's going to be a different kind of feel than the high pressure Leafs first round series. You get to play for Vegas and against Utah. It just has a whole different feel to it.
It's going to be really interesting. Yeah, Mitch Marner, what did he finish 3rd in the players poll, the PA poll yesterday for best forward capable of playing being a defenseman, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that'll be a good matchup. I'm with you. That's a good thing to look out for.
Yep. So closing out the West, we then have Edmonton, not LA, Anaheim. It won't feel that different from their usual first round travel for the Edmonton Oilers. They don't have a whole lot further south to go, but they do face the Anaheim Ducks, who really were on a skid kind of to end the season. It looked like the Ducks could just run away with the division. They finished the season pretty poorly. They get Edmonton as a reward for that. It's a tough matchup. The Oilers have figured things out recently, as I've said before. They have locked in. They know how to do this. How are you feeling about this series?
Well, as somebody who thought Edmonton was going to lock in and do that, I
That's true.
feel
You
like
called it. You called it before I did, for sure.
yeah, the to me, in a lot of ways, this is just the light version of the Vegas Utah series, where like Anaheim matches up well against Edmonton in the sense that they can be very offensively minded and they can score, and Edmonton has goaltending and defensive issues, right? And so it's kind of like that. It's just both teams aren't quite at the same level, or certainly Anaheim's not at the level of Utah. And so, where I think that Vegas Utah series is going to have a lot of close games and overtime games and stuff, I think this Edmonton Anaheim series will have some close games, but I think for the most part, Edmonton's just going to be able to take care of business because I think Edmonton and Vegas are about at the same level, but Anaheim is not quite at the level yet of what the Utah Mammoth are. And I think also the playoff experience on the Edmonton side should greatly outweigh the playoff inexperience on the Anaheim side. I think that's going to be a big deal here. And I think I took Edmonton in 5, maybe 6.
Yeah, I have. Oh, now I need to check it. I have Edmonton in 5. I think this should be a fairly short series, and I really believed in the Ducks having some upset potential maybe a couple weeks ago, depending on their opponent if they were in the Pacific bracket. I just haven't been inspired at all by their recent play, and Edmonton I've been very inspired by. I think they could go on a really deep run, having figured things out. This one doesn't seem all that close to me. I do wonder if the Oilers get Leon Draisaitl back at any point, because that's going to be key. I mean, they've looked really good without him, but that would make a huge difference in the series.
Right. Well, and if you're the Oilers, do you rush him back for game one, or do you just kind of see how game one goes without it?
Let's see how it goes.
I think against Anaheim, you can afford to do that and like maybe wait until you lose a game to put him back out there. Give him as much time to get healthy as possible.
Yeah, and he is practicing with the team. That's a good sign. If he wasn't, that'd be a really bad sign with the playoffs approaching. So he probably could come back and play through whatever this is. But yeah, I wouldn't rush it until you at least see how the series is going. He could be a good break glass in case of emergency option for you. You'll certainly need him by the second round, no matter who you play. But in the first round, I'm not sure. As far as goaltending, I mean, that's the one area where I could see it potentially faltering for the Oilers. I like Connor Ingram. I believe in Connor Ingram. He's playing all right. And certainly if the Oilers are going to lock in defensively the way they had, I don't think there are any problems there. But of course, that's been the issue all season. Do you think the Ducks, I guess, have enough offensive firepower? Because they got some real good guys to be able to kind of break that structure for Edmonton.
It'll all depend because the Ducks are very top line heavy, we'll say, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I think that that's what it's going to come down to. If Edmonton's able to throw all their defensive guys at shutting down essentially Leo Carlson and Cutter Gauthier, I think Edmonton's going to be just fine, and they won't have to worry about it too much. I mean, the Ducks' special teams, both sides of it, aren't very good. Their power play below average, despite the fact that they have guys like Leo Carlson and Cutter Gauthier out there. I think that that's going to be a real key for Edmonton is just you only have to essentially worry about 2 guys. Now, you could make the same argument for Edmonton where it's like, hey, if you just shut down Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl, you're fine. It's a lot tougher to shut down those guys. I mean, again, maybe Leon Draisaitl not at 100% is different, although we've seen him do damage in the playoffs, basically playing on one leg before. So I don't know that I'd totally say that. But I think that that's going to be the big thing is Cutter Gauthier, Leo Carlson, are they at the level yet where they can overcome being, double and triple teamed essentially in postseason hockey, where you can do a little bit more clutching and grabbing, where things are going to be more physical, and where you have to fight that little bit harder to get any space and separation. I just don't think that they've had to experience that yet. And I think they're very good players, and I think one day they will be at that level. But I think that that's going to throw them a little bit here at the beginning against a team that has had to go up against the Florida Panthers the last two Stanley Cup finals. I think that Edmonton's just going to be able to play a playoff style hockey that this Ducks team is just not prepared for.
Yeah, well, one thing I'm interested in there is kind of the flip side of that on the shutdown angle with Leo Carlson. It's like, can the Oilers maybe shut him down? I wonder about him as maybe the shutdown guy against Connor McDavid, because Leo Carlson, I mean, he's going to be a fantastic shutdown center. He looks like maybe the next coming of Alexander Barkov. I don't want to like go that far yet
Right.
because Barkov's a hell of a player, but if anyone can kind of be that next guy, it looks like Leo Carlson. He'd be the guy I would put in that matchup against Connor McDavid. And the way the Ducks are running their lines right now, you got him with Kreider and Terry, and you've got Cutter Gauthier on that third line. You've got Beckett Seneca on the second line with Mikael Granlund. You're kind of splitting things up a little bit in terms of your scoring. I think that's probably the right approach to take with your depth, and just tell Leo Carlson, look, you're shadowing Connor McDavid. You were just trying to shut this guy down. I can't wait to see how he does in that matchup. I think McDavid will ultimately get the better of it because you just can't bet against that guy. But I want to see how it goes.
Right. I thought about also saying and tacking on at the end there of what I previously said is, if I'm Joel Quenneville, what I'm doing is I'm showing Leo Carlson every shift that Barkov had through the last two Stanley Cup finals against this Edmonton Oilers team, and being like, do this to the best of your ability. You're not going to totally do that, but do this to the best of your ability. Like, that's, I think, the approach they have to have. I'm with you.
Yeah, so that's where I'm going to be focused on in that matchup, and we'll see. But at the end of the day, Connor McDavid, first round, he's getting out of it. Even if it gets close, if it gets dicey, he's going to turn it on at the right time.
Yeah. The other thing is, just to finish it up, I mean, we talked about Edmonton goaltending. It's not like Dostal has been like this world beater on the other end for Anaheim. Like, that is where I think things are a little different than, again, the Vegas Utah series. Anaheim could also have their own goaltending issues in this one.
Yeah, no, I don't see a huge advantage for them necessarily. We know Dostal can get hot and look good in stretches, but we just haven't seen it recently.
Yeah.
And
the PK for Anaheim is not good at all either. So if Edmonton's able to get power plays, they're scoring on them.
Which they tend to do. They tend to be able to get power plays and to score on them. So I'm with you. Now, moving out east, we'll go to the series that you had as your interesting series that could be potentially exciting and maybe closer than you think. But Dylan, do you believe in the Boston Bruins enough to pick them to actually win the series against Buffalo? I'm looking forward to watching this one for sure, just to see the Buffalo Sabres back in the playoffs. It's been too long. Happy for those fans. But are they in for some disappointment early on?
I really think they might be. This was really tough for me to pick this because I think it has the potential to go 7 for sure. Just because I think these two teams are close. They match up well. They had a very close season series. In this one, I think Buffalo, 1-1-2 against the Bruins this year. So again, you're talking about 2 of their 4 games going to overtime. I tend to lean heavily on the playoff experience versus the playoff inexperience, particularly for a team like this Buffalo squad that has never been able to even just get there and find ways to grind it out enough to get to the postseason. I just don't know that they're going to be able to handle things once they're there. The only reason why I think it goes as far as it does is because outside of Pasta, Boston just has nobody capable of keeping up with the offensive guys on the Buffalo side of things. And so if Buffalo is able to shut down Pastrnak, which difficult assignment, but if you kind of only take it that you have to worry about him, I don't know that, like, say, Morgan Geekie, despite being a good goal scorer, is going to be able to keep pace with the Buffalo depth that they have this year.
Yeah, and on paper, I think Buffalo certainly has the depth edge over Boston. And I'm gonna disagree with you. I think Buffalo is gonna win. I've got Buffalo in 6, and I know there's some lessons to be learned for this group in the playoffs, and I think that'll probably come in the second round. But as for this series, the Bruins just don't scare me depth wise, and the Sabres, they're the best team in the NHL post Olympic break. They're playing really well. They've been on a heater. I think everything's working out well for them, and I cannot pick against them. It's too fun to pick them, honestly, in this series. Like I cannot pick against them. I can't be rooting for an upset here. I got to go with Buffalo. Of course, the one area I could see it maybe come undone is goaltending. That is the one huge path for Boston. I could see Jeremy Swayman just stealing this series, but I don't know. After watching him, it was only one game in the Olympics, but after watching him in that moment, I don't know. I don't know. I'm questioning it more than I am Buffalo's goaltending. And look, Buffalo's just got their list of names. Is it Luukkonen that's going to start? Do we think, or Lyon?
I I don't know. I guess I would probably go with Lion, but they might go Luukkonen.
Yeah. So I'm not even like I should look this up. I'm not even sure who exactly is going to be their playoffs. I think it's going to be Luukkonen. He's started most of the games recently.
Yeah.
But the Sabres are certainly a team that if one goalie falters, they could just go to another one. And that said, you know me, I like going with a bunch of cheaper goalies in net, just ride the hot hand. It's worked for the Sabres all season. I think it'll continue to work. But that is the one path I could see to them potentially losing the series.
Yeah, I think it's going to be close. To be clear, I did pick Buffalo.
Oh, you did? Okay.
As much as I think, it's just normally we would see this and we would say, oh, it's kind of slam dunk. The division winner, particularly a division winner out of a good division, should take care of this not very deep wild card team. I just think that it's going to be a lot closer than people think. But I did on my bracket choose Buffalo. I just think the depth is just it's too heavily in their favor.
Yeah. In 7, do you had?
I think so.
Okay.
I have to.
No, that's fine.
Yeah.
All right. So we agree on Buffalo. You think it'll be closer than people think, but not quite enough to pick Boston there. Now we move on to Tampa, Montreal, and I am really looking forward to this series. This one might be my favorite out of the whole first round. My eyes are going to be glued to it. And it feels every bit as exciting as the Dallas-Minnesota series to me, because both of these teams I could see have the potential to potentially even win the Stanley Cup this year. It's a shame that one of them is going to have to be out in the first round. And the contrasting styles as well. That's what's really interesting me, because you have Tampa, who has been there, done that. They are built to play nasty and to win Stanley Cups that way, but they've also got a ton of skill. They've got everything you could ask for. And then you've got Montreal, who is so exciting to watch. A high scoring team, maybe has to learn some of those playoff lessons about playoff style hockey. We'll see how the Marty St. Louis system works in a series like this. And it is going to be battle tested early in this series. But you look at it and I think Montreal might have the skill advantage potentially to win this. Like, they could just blow the doors off Tampa. I could see it even being a short series. I could see this series going either way. I could see it being a 5-game series either way. I could see it going 7. I really don't know what to expect from this one.
I expect a good series. I
guess that's the thing I most expect. Yeah.
Yeah. I think it's gonna ultimately go in the favor of Tampa. I mean, shocker, I'm gonna be consistent here. I think the playoff experience of them outweighs the lesser experience of Montreal. I also just think Tampa's a deeper team. I think Montreal, as great as Nick Suzuki is, and obviously different thing because he's a center and he's more two-way, but doesn't have the same skill level of, say, Nikita Kucherov, right? So I think you had to take that on the Tampa side, and then you start going down the lineup for them, and it's like, does Montreal have Caulfield can obviously score, but on Tampa side, they have guys like Braden Point and Jake Gensel and Sorelli, and you know what I mean? Like, it's just so many guys there can score. And I think that, with Montreal, we'll see how the goaltending is. That I think is, something that might ultimately decide this. And that's certainly where I value the veteran experience in this series of Andrei Vasilevsky over whoever Montreal is going to be starting.
Yeah, I mean, I imagine it'd probably be Dobesh.
It's gonna
And
be
hey, he's
Dober.
been on a little bit of a run recently too.
Yeah,
Like post Olympic break, he's looked pretty good. And Vasilevsky, of course. I mean, we don't need to say anything more about Andrei Vasilevsky. We know what he's accomplished. We know what he's done this season. He's prime Vezina candidate. I think Tampa has the goaltending edge, but I think it might not be by as much as you think. And the key for me in this one is Victor Hedman
I was
for
just gonna
Tampa.
say Victor Hedman.
Yeah, and I knew we were both going to get there at some point, but he hasn't played a game since March 19th. I believe John Cooper said today, this is from Benjamin Pierce, that Victor Hedman is around the team. Vic's been around us. He's slowly starting to get some ice time and stuff like that and get himself hopefully back. That doesn't sound like a player that's going to be back, at least not early in this series. Maybe as a break glass in case of emergency type of thing. But that's where I think it might fall apart for Tampa is if they don't have Victor Hedman. It's an entirely different blue line without him, especially in the playoffs. And if he's not going to be there, I'm really not convinced at all. Now, on the flip side, Montreal, you got to worry about Noah Dobson. How much is he going to play? Is he going to be in? I think that actually might be where the series is decided, is those two blue liners, as much as the forwards draw all the attention because they're got some dynamite forwards on both sides. It might be the blue lines that decide it.
Yeah, I think the Hedman loss is obviously way more substantial for Tampa than Noah Dobson on the Montreal side of things. And I mean, look, I'm somebody that has been critical of Tampa's blue line the last couple postseasons, and that's been why I've kind of thought that they wouldn't go far in the last couple postseasons, and I've largely been correct on that. It has been their Achilles heel. And so I think you take Victor Hedman out of that equation, and that blue line looks even worse. I think they've done more to try to prop it up than in some years past, but still, it's rough without Victor Hedman. They're going to have to really truly rely on their forwards to just outscore Montreal. And this is where, if Dobesh plays well for Montreal, he can steal the series here, because all he has to do is limit Tampa to say 2 to 3 goals per game, and Montreal might be able to attack Tampa enough to outscore them there.
Yeah, I agree with that. And I think defense, blue line is very much, I think, a weak link type of unit. And you look at that bottom pair for Tampa and Charles-Edouard Dastou and Emil Liljeberg. We watched him play a couple times recently against Seattle when we were watching those games up close. Was not impressed by those two, and especially Liljeberg. Like, he's got the size and everything, the nastiness to play that playoff hockey, but you can just turn and burn around him with speed. Like, he doesn't skate the best. And I think you're going to have to really shelter that third pair. You're going to have to give a lot of minutes to your top four. And again, that's a position that Tampa's been in before, and it has kind of been their undoing. They haven't really had that playoff success since they were a solid unit 1 through 6. They don't really have that. And then you add to it too, you might get a lot of close games here. I could see a lot of this. I could see this being the overtime series where a lot of games go to OT, and both teams have guys that can convert there. But Cole Caulfield, what he's done this season, in those clutch moments, I don't know. I could see him getting at least one OT winner here.
I could too. And it's really going to probably be, if it is like an OT series, whoever just gets those bounces, you know what I mean? Like, all of a sudden it becomes then a luck-based series. And I can see that with this one.
Yeah. And so for that reason, I could see it being close, but I've got Montreal in 6. And it might even be a shorter series than that. Again, I could totally see one of these teams just blow the doors off the other one. It could go either way, but I'm going to kind of go in the middle here and say Montreal in 6.
Yeah, I chose Tampa in 6, but yeah, I could see it going the other way. I think it's going deep either way. I just kind of think that, again, the goaltending just becomes a thing. Like, I'm just really envisioning a scenario where Montreal just can't quite get the saves when they need one.
Okay. All right. Now, moving on to a series that you're not even going to watch, but I'm going to be glued to every game. I'm going to be watching it all. And that is Carolina, Ottawa. I know you're just going to sit back, get ready for the Carolina sweep that you think is coming. I'm going to watch Ottawa pull off the upset here. This might be the series we kind of differ on in outlook the most. Why do you think Ottawa can't hang with Carolina?
Because Ottawa is a team that is like one player deep. And it's not even like one Connor McDavid level player deep. It's like, Stutzla's offense with Kachuk's toughness and Drake Batherson's ability to score net front, right? And it's like this like one kind of amalgamation of like a really good playoff player deep. And I just don't believe in them as a group. I don't love their blue line as a playoff style blue line. Like they have good players. Sanderson's a good player. Shabbat's a good player, but they don't they don't strike me as playoff style players on the back end, and I think that that's going to be an issue for them. And then the other thing is also, Olmark has been unbelievably up and down this year. I don't necessarily trust their ability to get a save when they need one.
All right, so let me go point by point and tell you why you're wrong. As far as the depth here for Ottawa, especially the forward depth, I know you're like one player deep here. I love this forward group. I really do. I like Stutzla. I like Brady Kachuk. Of course, he's playoff style player, but they've got a dynamite shutdown line in with Shane Pinto, Michael Amadio, and I guess it's Nick Cousins playing with them right now. But that third line can shut down anybody. They've done a fantastic job all season of that. They can limit chances. You can put that against whichever line for Carolina because they're a very deep team too. Like again, Carolina's got a ton of depth. I'm with you on that. But they can put that against whichever line is performing best for Carolina. And I know they're going to be the road team. They're not going to have the matchups for the first couple games. But once they come home, if they can even just get a split in the first two, I like that matchup line. And then I think they've got the secondary scoring in their forwards, at least enough to hang with Carolina if the Canes scoring dries up a little bit. And then you talk about goaltending. Can they get a save? And yes, this is always the question with Ottawa. It is, again, always very iffy. I will acknowledge that. That said, if there's any team whose system I think gives a goalie a chance to settle into a series, to settle into a game, it's Carolina. Mm-hmm. Because what they love to do is pepper goalies with a ton of shots, but a lot of them are low quality shots. Mm-hmm. And so if they give Olmark, 25, 30 shots in the first couple periods of this series, but a lot of them are just kind of floaters from the blue line, things like that, that's what Carolina likes to do. They go for those rebounds and everything. If Olmark falters early and, one of those easy shots gets through him and the confidence is shot, then yeah, this could be over early. But I think if any style is going to give him a chance to really settle in there, it's going to be the one against Carolina. And we've seen Olmark do well in the playoffs before. If he can get that confidence, then I think the Sens could be rolling.
Yeah, it is possible. And again, if Olmark's going, he will be the best goaltender in the series, no question. Right? Like Carolina doesn't have anybody that's going to be playing at his level if he's playing at the level he can or he's capable of playing at. I just think that one of the things that matters a lot through the regular season and matters a lot in round one is structure. And Carolina is arguably the most structured team in the National Hockey League. And if they're not, it's Colorado, and then Carolina is second, right? And Ottawa, I don't think of as always being the most structured team. And I just think that when things get tough, the ability to fall back on structure and guys not panicking and trusting where their other guys are going to be and all of that stuff, it matters. And I think that Carolina has that, and I just don't think that Ottawa does at the end of the day. And I think if Carolina is just able to pressure Ottawa, Ottawa at some point will break. And the moment that it breaks once, I don't know that Ottawa is then able to pull it back together for the rest of that game, right? Like if they get exposed on something, Ottawa tends to then unravel. And I think that Carolina's in a unique position where they're going to be able to expose Ottawa in different ways. And I think that that's going to be an issue for them.
But on the flip side, I think Carolina's got all the pressure on them. I think they're every bit as capable of unraveling, especially because they're going to be starting the series at home. If the Sens can pull off a win early, especially like in game one, all the questions there are on them. And if they can get ahead early, then maybe Ottawa's able to at least mentally kind of reset a little bit if the Canes then come back and start to expose some things. So I don't know. How do you feel about the season series? Carolina, 2 wins to 1 win for Ottawa. Goals 11-10 for Carolina. That's pretty close. I know you've kind of pointed the season series. I really weigh heavily on it, but some of the even ones, like say with Boston and Buffalo, that one had a 1 goal difference. Maybe it's closer than people think. And then the most recent game, April 5th, Ottawa beats Carolina 6-3. I don't know. I think the season series, even though the Canes got the better end of it, the one game that actually happened somewhat recently shows me that the Sens can kind of play with the Canes.
Yeah, no, I don't think it's gonna be like the worst series ever because Carolina is just so much better than Ottawa. Like I agree that the hockey is probably going to be better than I've been making it sound, but I just think that Carolina at the end of the day is going to be able to get it done, and I just don't trust a lot of the guys on Ottawa. Like, is Tim Stützle going to be able to elevate his game come playoff time, or is he going to be flopping all over the place and not getting calls because it's the postseason? You know what I mean? Like, I just don't trust some of those guys that Ottawa tends to have to rely on.
I'll give
Right?
you the Tim
You know,
Stützle
Brady
diving thing.
Tkachuk,
That
all
he's
you
going
have
to
to
do
do,
that pretty reliably.
right? Yes, Brady Tkachuk. You can get in his head. He's proven that time and time again. You can throw him off his game if you just kind of go after him early, right? Like Carolina is a
But are
smart
they
enough.
the type of team to do that?
They're not necessarily the type of team to do
I
that,
think they wouldn't want to get dragged into the mud there.
but I think that like it's one of those things where like Brindamore knows that that's something that he can pull out whenever he feels like he needs it, right? A game starts getting close and Brady Tkachuk's doing damage. Send out a fourth liner to take a run at him once, and that's no longer a problem potentially, right? Like this is where I go back to the structure, the coaching, that kind of stuff. I just think that's so heavily in favor of Carolina that they'll just find ways of slowly picking apart this Ottawa team through the course of games and then ultimately coming out ahead, even if they're all like 1 goal games.
Yeah. This isn't part of debating you, by the way. I'm just curious. Like, who do you send after Kachuk if you're Brindamore? Like Will Carrier, maybe?
Yeah, I mean he's kind of the obvious answer, right?
Yeah, I guess so. I mean, maybe he goes at it with Nikishin or something. That'd be another
Yeah.
one.
Yeah, you could do that. Sean Walker, maybe.
Yeah.
Hatfield.
Maybe. Chatfield, I guess. Yeah, you got some of the blue liners, I
Hatfield
guess, that
makes
could go
sense.
toe to toe with them.
It's Kakniemi, right? Just be like, hey man,
No,
you got sauce.
no, no. I don't think that's a good
Yeah,
idea.
no, I obviously it was a joke, but um, yeah. I mean, look, they brought in Delorier.
Oh yeah, that's right. I guess he hasn't
That's
been. Yeah, he hasn't been the regular lines here, but yeah, I mean, you could easily just do that for a
I
game.
mean, the only reason you bring him in, right, is
Yeah,
because you want some playoff toughness.
no, that's
So
true.
that's probably your answer there.
Yeah, no, you're right. That is a good point, actually. That is what he would be there for, as we're just kind of go skating in circles around the real answer. So closing it out, last series, we got the Battle of Pennsylvania. Dylan, I know you're excited for this one. You cannot wait. I have a feeling I know which team you're gonna pick because it is the Battle of Pennsylvania, and grew up watching Sidney Crosby pretty closely. Why is Sid, the not so much a kid anymore, going to get it done one last time against the Philadelphia Flyers?
Because the Flyers just don't have the firepower, I think, to keep up with the Penguins' offense. Now, it is an interesting series because you have on the one hand the Penguins, which are all offense, no defense, no goaltending, and then you have the Flyers, which are very much like all defense, not really goaltending, but they're getting it. They're not allowing a ton of goals, and then a forward group that's Travis Konechny and others. And so it is going to be interesting. I think it's going to be very much a grinded out series. I am a huge fan and believer in Rick Tocchet and his coaching systems and his coaching philosophy for today's NHL. I think that that's a big reason why Philadelphia is in this spot at all and why they made the postseason. And so I think that he's going to be able to keep the Flyers in this series by kind of just always knowing which buttons to press. But I think at the end of the day, you win games by scoring goals, and I just don't think the Flyers have enough guys that are going to be able to reliably do that for them to come out of this series.
Right. And I think it's an interesting matchup. This is the series I had the toughest time picking because I see so many different ways like that I could go here. The season series was, I mean, two of the games went to overtime. Penguins 2-0-2, but that's still 2 wins, 2 losses. The other thing I look at too that I tend to lean back on if the season series is close is like just records since at least this year, the Olympic break, kind of down the stretch. Flyers fourth best record in the NHL post Olympic break. Penguins 21st best record. There's a difference there. Although both teams have had only 9 regulation wins in that time, a lot of the Flyers wins happened in overtime, happened in the shootout. It's really tough. And again, I'm a believer in, you've talked me into being a believer in Rick Tocchet. Like you were on that first, but I really do like what he's able to get out of his teams. I like the Penguins roster on paper a little bit more. I think the Flyers are just kind of lacking there talent wise, but I don't know. I really don't like either of these teams. I like whichever team, wins
Oh
here
yeah,
to lose in the second round
I'm
to
with you.
Ottawa or Carolina. I don't know. I've just been on the fence on this one. I would tend to say just go with the team that has Sidney Crosby and Evgeny Malkin on it, just because the veteran presence, leadership. But I really think coaching is going to be big too, and we don't know how Dan Muse is going to handle a playoff series. We haven't seen him really do that before at the NHL level. All of this is just to talk long enough to try and buy myself enough time to make a pick.
Well,
Really,
here, let me see if this matters for you. One of these teams has a power play percentage that's nearly 10 percentage points higher than the other one. Would you say that that's substantial and potentially difference making?
potentially, but we know over a short sample size that can just go cold.
Mhm. And there's not gonna be as many penalties because it's the postseason.
Right.
But I just power
Well,
play is
in
indicative
the
of your
first round, refs
ability.
might try and kind of set the tone.
Yeah. Power play is in a lot of ways indicative of your team's offensive ability, right? Like, generally, the teams with bad power plays are low-skilled teams. I know everybody's already typing Colorado Avalanche in the comments section, but I'm saying generally this is the case. And the Philadelphia Flyers power play operating at 15%, it's not
Yeah.
good. That's just really, really bad. And I just think that that's going to be something that at the end of the day, you're just not going to be able to find enough guys that can put the puck in the back of the net. I don't know. I think the Penguins defense is trash. The goaltending has been really rough. But you know what? We have seen an offensively minded team with Stuart Skinner in net in the Stanley Cup final the last 2 years. I'm not saying the Penguins are going to go on a run of that level, but I think they can get out of the first round.
Yeah. Well, I think a lot of it might come down to goaltending. And can I really pick Stuart Skinner? Yeah,
You're gonna
again, I
pick a
know he's got the
Flyers
last 2 cup
goalie?
finals, but there he can single handedly lose a team a game, and I don't think the Penguins can afford that in the way the Oilers can. He does
Maybe.
that. He can do that twice in a series for the Oilers, and they can afford it because they've got Connor McDavid. I don't think the Penguins can afford that. Versus Dan Vladar, I mean,
Yeah.
he's inspired me
Vladar's
with
been
more
good this year.
confidence recently.
Yeah. No, and Vladar is definitely the better goaltender. Like for sure. Vladar is the best goalie in this series, no question. But I don't know that he's a steal the game kind of goaltender. Like so much of it is he's huge and he's generally in the right place, and then therefore the puck hits him, right? Like if the Penguins start going to work on him, I don't know that he's necessarily enough.
Yeah. All right. Well, I got to make a decision here. I'll go. I'm just gonna go with what I filled in my bracket yesterday. I'm just questioning it. Pens in 6. Sure. I don't
That's
know.
what I have. Again,
Be
if the
boring.
Flyers upset, credit to Rick Tocchet, but they could do it. And there's something to be said for the fact that on the Flyers side of things, you have guys like Travis Konechny, Christian Dvorak, Owen Tippett, Matvei Michkov, all these guys scoring, around 20 goals or more and virtually no power play goals. for any of these guys. Owen Tippett, 28 goals this year, 3 on the power play. Travis Konechny, 27 goals this year, only 2 on the power play, right? Like Matvei Michkov's second on this team in power play goals with 4. 4 out
Should
of
we
his
just be
20.
to predict
So
the series? Should we just be looking at the refs and see how many penalties they tend to call? Like if they tend to be high
basically,
penalty or low penalty?
certainly if it's high penalty, I don't see how the Flyers win this, but if it's predominantly 5-on-5, Flyers have kind of shown that's the only time they can take care of business.
Yeah. In the first round, there's usually more calls. All right, I'll go Pittsburgh. And it could set up the fun series of Erik Karlsson versus his former team in the second round. I'd love to see that.
Yeah. Now, one potential dark horse that could shift this whole thing, RJ. Porter Martone, 10 points in
Yeah.
9 games. He's going to be out there. He's got size. It's going to be really interesting because generally I feel like young guys that come in late in the season and then go into the postseason, their production falls off a cliff once they have to deal with postseason hockey because those late regular season games, you're playing a bunch of teams that are already out of it potentially, and guys just aren't trying as hard, and everybody's beat up, and you're young and on the adrenaline high of coming into the league, and then the postseason happens, and everybody's game hits the next level, and you've just never experienced anything like that before because you haven't even grinded out a full regular season. So it's going to be really interesting to see how Porter Martone does in this because he himself kind of gives the Flyers that extra little offensive push that maybe helps put them on the level of the Penguins or at least a little bit more. So it'll be very interesting. If he's able to just show up and he is just legit right out of the gate, he can make this series a lot closer.
No, for sure. And I think there's something to be said for players coming in with very limited NHL experience, just getting to go into a playoff run and kind of play a little bit freer like that. I think that's huge. Again, very different players, certainly size wise, but I always go back to like Cole Caulfield in his age 20 season, just joining Montreal for that Stanley Cup final run and the way that he was able to play, the kind of element he was able to bring that was maybe different from the rest of the team and how structured they were, but just somebody who could go out there and kind of play free and score. And it really seemed to energize everybody. I think Martone's given the Flyers a lot of that right now. And so you're right. I could see that, but you keep trying to talk me into the Flyers here.
I'm not. I'm
not
just
budging.
hedging. I'm hedging my own Penguins pick. That's all.
There you go. But I think this is all a sign that like, who knows what to expect from this series aside from that it should be pretty close. And I think you've talked me into watching. Oh, I was going to watch a lot of it anyway, but you've talked me into really zeroing in on it. And that's one of the games that is today too. That's the last of the games today. So looking forward to that one closing out the night.
Yeah. Now I finally pulled up my bracket because I was doing it all off of memory and I was almost entirely correct on everything that I filled out my bracket.
Congratulations, Dylan. You remembered something you filled out a day ago.
I know. The one thing that I did, and I obviously flip-flopped a lot on this, one night in my new house has really changed my perspective on thing. I had Buffalo in 5. After I sat here this whole podcast, it was like, Boston's going to push them to the absolute brink. Yesterday, I was not a believer in Boston's lack of depth. So
okay, this is a newer revelation for you here. You should go ahead and change your bracket now if you believe that. It's fine to change it now before the games start. But at the absolute brink of the 5th game of the series, they will push them. Yeah, all right. Well, I'm feeling a little more confident now and pushing back on that.
Yeah. But yeah, I'm super excited. I mean, just going over these series, there's so many good series this year. There's really only a couple duds, it's like the Colorado LA series. If there's another game on, you can watch that other game. But otherwise, like I'm gonna have a hard time like trying to choose a game to zero in on here. I think it's gonna have to be a lot of 2 screens.
Yeah, no, that's the key. And this is the time of year to do that too. Have multiple screens available if you can, have multiple games on. Just put the volume, crank the volume up on both of them. Just be able to understand nothing. Just do that. But no, it's going to be such a great time. It's the best. I know for me personally, I think first round might be my favorite, then followed by the cup final, then the conference final. And the second round always feels like a bit of a letdown.
Second round is usually a letdown. I give you that. Yeah.
But I mean, the way that the system is designed here too, it's like you're getting Dallas, Minnesota, you're getting Tampa, Montreal in the first round. That's how it works. So everybody enjoy the first round of the playoffs. It's going to be a great time. Join our bracket challenge, Emerald City Hockey on the NHL bracket challenge thing. See if your picks can beat ours. If history is anything to go by, they at least one of you probably can. Probably a lot of you probably can. I think I finished pretty low last year, but I think like our first year doing it, I actually won it. But after that, no, it's been all downhill from there. So get some bragging rights over Dylan and I, and we'll have some fun with that. And the whole ECH community. We got a lot of people in there.
Yeah, I can't wait till a week from now when just about everything that we've felt and believed in so strongly has been proven.
Oh yeah, we get to revisit this in a week and see how wrong we were about everything. So everyone make sure to listen for that.
Well, that is always one of the fun things about the first round is like everybody will kind of be like, oh, this team for sure. And then all of a sudden a week later, you're like, damn, that team was able to do the thing that, we didn't really think they could. Like, it is fun. The NHL playoffs, because hockey is such a coin flip sport and luck based, and because of how close teams are these days and everything, like so much can happen. And even here, right? Like as we've been debating some of these series, like Carolina, Ottawa, or Penguins, Flyers, we can make a million reasons why each team could win and the series could go in their direction, right? Montreal, Tampa, like that could go in so many different directions. It's just so much fun to see which one of those things plays out and how quickly, like 1 or 2 games, you'll know which direction that series is going and which of those things is actually playing out. So it is fun.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I can't wait. We'll come back here in a week, and yeah, you could see a sweep in the series of like, oh, this could go down to the wire and be close. Come back, LA's up 2-1 against Colorado or something. So weirder things have happened. That's not going to happen. But that one I actually don't think. I don't think there's any shot.
That one will be the one where, like, you know what? If LA somehow makes that a series, not even wins it, just makes it a series, I'll never try to predict the playoffs ever.
We'll have to shut down the podcast. Yeah, for the playoff predictions, we're like, all right, we're just going to talk about what has happened.
All future bracket challenges of mine will be literal coin flips.
There you go. Hey, you might do better, honestly. Someone should submit a bracket challenge where you just decided to buy coin flip.
Yeah, that would be it.
Tell us how it does.
My dog decided or something. All right, that's going to do it for this podcast. Thanks so much for listening, everybody, and we will see you all next time.